All right, so without further ado, let's dive into the Getting Buy-in for Your Community webinar. Yay. Okay, so I'm talking first. I'll just go ahead and just say my name is Danielle. I'm a member of the customer success team here at Discourse, and I will have been here 3 years in May.
And my name is Bas. I'm also a member of the customer success team, a direct colleague of Danielle, and I've been here for 2 years. So she is definitely my senior here.
Okay, Boss is being modest. He is a phenomenal resource for all things community. So we're just going to keep going. All right. So why buy-in matters? What's the point of this whole thing that we are presenting here? So here's a kind of grand statement. And as with all of this is coming from the customer success team. Don't take this as hard as Discourse's quoted disposition on everything. Put that liability on Boss I and maybe the CS team, but without buy-in, even the best communities struggle. So buy-in turns your community from a side project into a strategic priority. And without it, you'll face uphill battles with engagement, resources, and long-term sustainability. So that is a very broad statement, and we will kind of get into the details of that now. So we'll just kind of move quickly here. This is the most text-heavy side that we have throughout the whole presentation. But we want to compare strategic and supported community versus an isolated and struggling community. And then Boss, feel free anytime to jump in during my rambling. All right, so on the strategic side, we have clear purpose and alignment. So the community's mission is directly tied to the business goals and priorities. And then on the other side, we have kind of lack of strategic clarity. The community exists, but the purpose is vague or disconnected from company goals. As we can see here, as we're all feeling, if something is just kind of there and we don't know why it's there, it's very likely to be pushed to the side, not prioritized. It's just this kind of thing that exists versus something that is tied into an overall goal, business buy-in, things like that. Executive sponsorship is going to be on the strategic and supported side. That means senior leaders understand the value and actively advocate for the community. That is so very important. You need people outside of community managers or outside of, sometimes this will be just under like a support team or something like that. But you need everyone involved in your business or space, or even if it's a nonprofit, anything like that, there's always going to be that senior leadership, things of that nature. You need them to not only understand why the community is there, but be able to advocate for it on some level. And then on the other side, no leadership or support. Leadership is either unaware or skeptical, which makes it hard to gain traction or funding. Funding can be as simple as the monthly fee it is to have your community, or it could be having actual team members that have salaries tied to your community, i.e. a community manager or something like that. Cross-functional collaboration. So departments like product, marketing, support are engaged in contributing. A good example of that, as many of you know, of meta.discourse.org. It's not just we're all community champions, right? But it's not just a couple of community members on there. You'll see our engineers, you'll see our CEOs, everyone engages on Meta. In an isolated or struggling community, there are siloed operations. So the community manager is working alone with minimal collaboration across teams. And even if you have the best community manager in the world, it's still very isolating. We know that things that happen in silos or vacuums are often not supported. And therefore, when it comes time to put something on the chopping block, that thing that people don't really understand or don't really see or interact with is often the first to go. So again, dedicated resources. So there's a budget, staff, and time and tools allotted to community success versus not having that. And then the other big thing is, because we'll get into later into the presentation, buy-in from the actual community members. Members feel valued, supported, and consistently show up to contribute, versus a low member investment where members are passive, engagement is inconsistent, and there's a little sense of belonging, or there's little sense of belonging. Now, this can take shape a little bit differently depending on the type of community that you have. And we do have some examples later. So for instance, if your support community and your main thing is to drive down support times, have people have direct access, things like that, you might not want people to engage all the time, but when they do, they get their answers, things like that. They feel like this is the place to go versus trying to Google it and then maybe not getting something that they need. All right, big slide over. So let's talk about how.
One moment, Danielle.
Yeah,
There's a question that's pretty important. How do you define buy-in?
I simply define buy-in as people are aware of the community, they value the community, and their mindset is bought in as they get why this is happening. They're going to support why this is happening. They are completely dialed in to having a community operate in some fashion. How do you define buy-in, boss?
Well, yeah, good question. Just to clarify, this was a question by an attendee, and I think you answered it really well. I think buy-in is a bit of a nebulous concept here, right? It will depend on every community what buy-in is, what level of buy-in you need. But I think looking back at the previous slide, that is what we mean with buy-in, right? It's being on the left side of those two columns versus the right side. I think that would be my definition.
Awesome. All right. So how leadership involvement. So that was one of the top things. So it signals strategic value. Because as decisions are made, you want community to be a part of that. And strategic value is very vague, but it's going to be different for everyone. And we'll help you with some kind of questions and things like that to determine that. But community has to be part of the landscape of your business, organization, things like that. We talked about how it unlocks resources and visibility. So that can be funding, that can be extra support, that can be, hey, when we have events or stuff, it also goes on the community. It could be tools that you have, anything like that. And it builds internal trust and alignment. I have worked in places before where I was the only person doing something, and it's a little unsettling. Even like maybe you have a yearly or biannual thing where you showcase what you're doing, but it's still a little isolating, right? But with Discourse, we're highly collaborative, things like that. So that's what you want within your community and team structure as well. All right, so creating a business case for your community. What is a business case? So it is a clear strategic explanation of why your community exists, who it serves, and how it supports your organization's goals. It connects the community's purpose and vision with tangible business outcomes, such as customer retention, product adoption, brand loyalty, or support cost reduction. So internal stakeholders understand its value and invest in its success. That's basically it in a nutshell. And again, that's going to be unique to you. All right. So word of caution, you have to know what you're working towards first. And before we carve out a sample a sample journey for defining this, boss, I know that you have some knowledge on being able to know what your goals are and why that's important versus just us, let's say, as a customer success team coming to something and saying why something is valuable.
Yeah, I think this sentence, like, you need to know why you're doing it, right? And it sounds like you're talking to toddlers, but it is the most fundamental thing we have to do as community managers, right? And I see so many community managers that inherit a community or that have a community that's 10 years old, or a community that was launched as an initiative by a person that's now gone. Like every year at least, you need to align again and make sure that what you're doing actually helps your business grow, right? I've been at a place where I managed a community and the business model of the business changed, right? And all of a sudden we were no longer doing things that were in alignment with what the business needs. Well, guess what? A year later, I was gone. right? That's the reality of this job, is that we're here to help a business. And when we say business, that could be a non-profit, right? But that non-profit has targets, they have goals. And if you're not helping to reach those goals, you're effectively already on your way out, right? You need to know why you're doing it, and then you need to tell the people that you're doing it. And that's creating buy-in. Yeah.
Beautifully said. Absolutely. All right. So engaging leadership and stakeholders. All right. So we kind of have an example pathway. This is kind of, again, most people will fall somewhere around this area, but feel free to adapt this to you. So identify key decision makers in their priorities. So we're talking about getting buy-in. Who needs buy-in? This is just an example here. So this could be a CTO, board of directors, backing from customer-facing management, or a CTO for support community. They understand why this is happening. There is a team that says, okay, yeah, this is valuable to us. For a dev community, a developer community, a product director, again, a CTO, cross-team collaboration between product engineering, anything like that. A gaming community, your goals could be brand loyalty, marketing, gamification, in terms of, we'll talk about it a little bit later, but leaderboards, things like that. It could be you want to get early adopters, testers, anything like that. And who drives all of the initiatives? That really is going to be those decision makers that you want involved. And ideally, it's more than one. So like Boss said, if someone leaves the team, even if it's on the best of terms, they get an opportunity somewhere else. Well, if they were the only driver of that community, where does your community now stand? Right. So you want to have buy-in from multiple decision makers. And the first thing is to identify who those are. And it's not always your, I mean, for use of corporate terms, your immediate superior or a peer. Is there a tier above them? Is there a cross-functional person who would be good to loop into the community mission? All right, next on our path is speak their language to position your community as a strategic asset. Speaking their language means, what do they care about? If someone cares about saving money, you're going to have to say, even if you don't have hard numbers, communities are traditionally shown to save X. Or on the opposite end, it's known to drive brand loyalty. When people are loyalty to brands, it typically results in XYZ. So, and for each decision maker, that language might be a little bit differently. For
And
instance, oh, go ahead. Yeah.
sorry, yeah. Like in general, people are very open to discussing this, right? So someone, one of my customers, she made a plan, and she just went to the CFO and said, "I think this is what you want from me. Is that correct?" Right? And they will tell you if you're not speaking their language, right? And a CFO wants hard numbers. A chief product officer wants to know that you're helping all his departments. The CEO wants to know if you're helping her entire company, right? Do the mission, how do you prove that value and that language? They will tell you. They will tell you exactly what they need, right?
Yes. All right, so align community goals with company goals. A lot of times companies will release what they're working on for the year. Our goal is to, let's say in SaaS, reduce churn, increase renewals, whatever that is. I mean, there's even communities where, let's say, they're used to hiring like a research group or something like that. Well, the best place to get knowledge about your product is from the people who actually use it. So maybe the goal is to get more user feedback or things like that. Make sure that the community is aligning with that in somewhat. Now, this isn't to say shape your community all around company goals, right? There might be some things that are rogue. Like for some people, they just have general topics where they talk about literally the weather, or boss, I'm going to pick on you. We have a topic that's about our coffee setup, right? And it's those things that seem a little bit generic, but it's fun because it actually drives engagement. It drives people to check in the community for different ways. So we're not saying mold your community in a way that's not authentic, but it has to be tied to a community goal. Anything to add on that one?
No, no, you
Okay.
said that so well.
Thank you. All right. So then we have be prepared to handle objections and overcome common barriers. And this is specifically for maybe people who there's things that go hand in hand with community. Like let's say gaming. Often there's a community. Sometimes we say support a lot. Support, sometimes there's a community or there's some docs or something, right? But let's say you're introducing community in a corporate environment that's like, oh, well, we have email or we have chat. Like be able to overcome barriers around community, or will we have to moderate this? What will be said? Just kind of have some points in your head to be able to handle those objections, because an objection or even just a question isn't always a no. It's, I don't know about this. So please tell me why this is important and why I should care. And that ties back to all the other steps. And then elevate the community's visibility within the company. And that's kind of that silo that we spoke about. People have to know the community exists. And not only that, the community can't just be, it's with any initiative, right? It can't be this exciting thing for 1 month and then we don't hear about it for 6 months, a year, or 2 down the road. You can elevate visibility. Let's say there's different events or things that happen within your community, within your business, post that to your community. If there are updates or things that different department heads share, that can go into a community. Product launches, anything like that, just make sure your community just isn't existing in the background and that everyone has visibility to it. So that's internally, and then we'll talk a little bit externally as far as like the actual members.
Yeah, and in general, I've never seen a community manager that over communicates the value internally. So we all think like, oh, we already sent this email a month ago. Maybe we should like, no, no, no. You know, go and share the message until they tell you to stop. You should probably like do 4 times as much as you're currently doing, or even more. They will tell you if they have enough, and before that, assume that they don't know who you are and what your community does, and fix it. Yeah.
Wholeheartedly. All right, next section. Simple business case examples. Again, we're going to take some common themes, but adopt for your specific instance. Guess what? We have product service community on here. For those of you who may be webinar OGs, we covered in our community manager mindset webinar, which this webinar will go up on Meta, and within that post, I will link to the community manager mindset, where we actually gave an example of deeper business cases, KPIs, and things around these communities. So now we have evolved into talking about buy-in and things like that. So very simply, why this community exists. To create a space where users can engage with the product, share feedback, and build a sense of belonging, enhancing the overall customer experience. Short, sweet, understandable. Who it serves: current customers and users of the software product suite who want to learn, connect, and contribute to the product's evolution. So thinking of speaking in different people's language, it's, reduce support tickets, connection to the product. So many people buy, let's say, software and don't always use it. And so when that renewal comes, it's bye-bye to that software, right? So that's speaking to a CTO or a product manager, or more to a product manager, contribute to the product's evolution. Because a lot of times you'll get these super users within your community who are in the product all the time and can provide feedback. They can showcase bugs or anything like that, and use cases that are very, very valuable to you. So even though there's not a X dollar amount in front of that, if you learn different angles, that can then result as a secondary thing, income, things like that, or save some embarrassment because they found a really big bug or something. And then how it supports business goals. So it drives product adoption through peer support and shared use cases. It informs product development with real-time actionable feedback. And it strengthens customer retention by fostering a loyalty and connection. This is really simple when you look at it, but there's things that you can speak from to those leaders. Again, do I have the same slide? I might have the same slide. Sorry about that, people, but that gives you a really good example. And I'll put in a couple more examples in the recap post. We're going to move past this embarrassing moment. All right, so creating a strong case for community members. Again, kind of a statement here from RCS perspective, but leadership buy-in sets the stage, but member buy-in brings your community to life. To thrive, your community needs more than a platform. It needs people who see value in showing up, contributing, and staying engaged. When members understand what's in it for them, they're more likely to participate, connect, and advocate. So if I were to boil this down into, let's say, Danielle's generic terms, you don't want your community to be a ghost town. There's no people in a ghost town. People aren't chatting, they're not engaging there. You want people there, you want it populated. You want to have people who see why this is important or effective for them, and that is the member buy-in. All right, so we have communicating value to members. Highlight what members will learn, gain, or access. Again, a little bit different, but hey, you'll learn more about our company. You'll learn more about the product. You'll learn how to do something specific. You will gain, maybe you gain access to team members that you don't always engage with. That's the case for me. Even though we're open, you can go to anyone. Sometimes I find, hey, I'm talking to someone from infrastructure or migrations or engineering or even C-level that I don't communicate with every day. So I gain some inroads to talk to them and learn something for them. Or you'll get access. This can be premium access to special features. It can just be access to certain conversations. So you want to share the clear benefits, so support, connection, opportunities, and use real world stories and testimonials to showcase impact. I've kind of done that here when I kind of go off script and talk about different examples, but sometimes people don't always understand our KPI is XYZ. That's information that's needed. But if you have an example, for instance, hey, a community member noticed that when we updated this icon path, this happened. And then our engineering team jumped in and resolved that issue within 24 hours. So therefore, if anyone else was going to face that issue, it didn't happen. That was a result of the community. Boss, any more examples you want to share for that one?
No, I think it's a pretty good example. And I do want to make it clear that this the communicating this value, that we don't mean like that this has to be a banner on the homepage, right? Just like a really good party doesn't say like make friends on the poster, right? It's kind of implied in the setting. So highlight valuable members, right? Highlight contributions your members made. If one of your members speaks at a conference, right? Showing a post that they're highlighting that's communicating value to members. That's not just putting it on the poster, that's actually having it there, right? That's tangible evidence. And that increases buy-in for the next people that want to do that same journey. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And just to piggyback on that one more time, just really, really want to emphasize it's like you don't have to say, hey, this is a fun place. It reminds me of like the hello fellow kids emoji. Like, speak how they're gonna speak and then just make it that way versus always saying it's that way. In terms of those kind of soft value points, as in, hey, this is easy to read or something like that, right? Okay. Design a connected onboarding experience. So in general terms, onboarding experience is what happens when they first join the community. Provide a warm welcome and set clear expectations. The warm welcome, there's tons of ways to customize this in Discourse. So I'm just gonna say in general, like, hey, welcome to the community. We look forward to having you here. Maybe there's a category you think that they should visit first or something like that. Like, kind of guide them. I think of it as like if I'm coming to a party where we'll use party since we've been using that, and I don't know anyone. As an introvert, I'm probably not going to interact. I'm going to stand in the corner. But if I have like, even if it's an automated hand holding me through, like, hey, meet this person. Hey, this is where the snacks are. Hey, this is where you can tell I'm an introvert. I was going to say play board games. I don't know what cool people do at parties, but it's taking you through these different steps. So encourage your first action. So an intro post, a comment, poll, something like that to kind of get their feet wet. And then you can guide them with a quick start checklist or tour within Discourse. Again, there's tons of ways to do this. A simple one is DiscoBot. You can customize DiscoBot to walk people through not only what to do, but you're training them and things like that. It's a great first onboarding experience because sometimes I see, not picking on anyone individually, but they just expect people to join the community and immediately go in and start participating. But if there's not really an onboarding experience, how will I know? I'm going to kind of have like that thing where I'm a fly on the wall, just kind of looking at first. And if I'm not engaged immediately, who's to say that I'm going to come back and be engaged?
Yeah, and in addition, I think this is where a really engaged community manager can make such a difference, right? Going back to the party, having the host there saying like, hey, this is John, this is Karen, you should talk to them. Karen has the same hobbies as you, yada, yada, yada. That, and this is where the cool kids play board games, of course. It's a lot more effective than a sign that says the same thing, right? It's all about this human connection. If for just 10 members a week, if you do this customer onboarding experience where you as the community manager go like, hey, new person, I saw that you're here, connect them to other people. That's a lot of work, but that really makes people feel that immediate human connection that we all need. Right? It's not just Discobot, it's not just automation, it's not just signage. It's person to person interaction, which is what communities are in the end. Yeah.
Agree, totally. All right. So how do we encourage long-term engagement? Celebrate contributions with badges, leaderboards, or shout outs. And shout outs can be that human connection where you're going in and things like that. Leaderboards can be, hey, I'm gonna pick on Boss again just because he's here. Like he's always active in the community. So a lot of times he has, like, we do like summaries and things like that. His quotes are there, or most likes, things like that. Whatever is important to your community, having some kind of celebration around it or gamification is really cool because those little things keep people sticky, they keep people happy, and they encourage more engagement. This is not to say we have a lot of great tools to automate this, but still, again, kind of that human interaction is good too. Create fun challenges or themed events. I've seen this throughout a lot of communities around sharing things. Like I just saw like a multi-day challenge for a specific cause where they ask people to do different things. And this is within a corporate community, right? But just getting people in the community is good. Keeping them in the community is the engagement that you need. And even if it seems like, okay, this challenge really tied to our business case, it is, because people are in there and engaging. So guess what? They're also going to look at other things within the community or start contributing in the way that you need them to contribute. You can offer exclusive content or sneak peeks to active members. That can be a fun thing. You can even do that for specific groups. You can do that within specific categories, but just think about how you can make your community special.
And also with something like badges, I would strongly advise you to turn off a few of the default badges that Discourse brings, right? Because they are designed for all communities. If you have a very technical audience, right, you probably don't need the badge that says, "Oh, well done, you liked the post," or right, that turn them off wherever possible. Design this experience. Don't just, use the default interface. Don't just use the default anything really. This is your space, right? This is your community. Make it so that it matches your audience. And badges can be great, but they can also be very tiring. Leaderboards, like I personally don't care about leaderboards, but some people are so motivated by them. It will really depend on your audience. So think about what you're doing here. Fun challenges, absolutely. And this is an area where you sometimes also have to just try random stuff, right? Just absolutely, you never know what's going to hit. If it's a quiz or like one of my customers did a quiz about their products, like which model of printer has the XYZ function, and people loved it, right? If you had told me that that was the key to engagement, I would have called you names. But it works, and if it works, it's not silly, right? You just have to try. And yeah, the exclusive content and sneak peeks, you as a company have such a leverage power here. You can give them that no one give them things that no one else can give them. So yes, give them exclusive content, give them access, give them shout outs, give them stuff that they can't buy. Yeah.
All right, so I have a little bonus here for calculating your buy-in score. So this is where I feel like a game show announcer, where you will figure out, is your buy-in to your community well? All right, disclaimer. This is a quick and fun framework from the CS team. So, to assess your community's current level of leadership buy-in, you don't have to take this as gold, but I think it's fun and engaging, and it can help you figure some things out. All right, boss, I'm going to let you take this one.
Right, surprise. So leadership and stakeholder buy-in, I mean, this is kind of the key of what we're saying here, right? So 20 points, the biggest one is that at least two key stakeholders, and there we really mean, C-level, VP level, that kind of level depends on your company, of course. They are aware of why you have a community, right? Most companies, like most people that I talk to, fail this point. You have a defined business case that aligns with company goals. Yeah, this might actually be worth more points, but we settled on 15. You have a set time to revisit and discuss the business case with leadership. Do this quarterly, right? Ideally, maybe every half year. If you have a dedicated budget and resource, you can do a lot more. That will be fantastic. And if you have KPIs, that's just the cherry on top, right? That makes it so that at any time, at any month, someone can come to you and say, "Are you on track?" And you can say, "Yeah, look, here's my KPI." And the KPI is something that regularly updates and shows that you are on track to achieve that more vague business goal, right? So yeah, write this down, add them up, see how many points you get.
All right, so then we have the next section, member buy-in engagement. So it's easy for members to determine your community's purpose. That's 10 points. So I do want to see some of your scores in the comments. So hope you're engaging with us. But and that should be so easy to determine, because if it's too complicated, people are going to move past it, right? That's not just community, that's marketing, that's everything. It should be super easy for people to determine the purpose. New members are welcome with clear guidance and prompts. Your community has an engagement strategy, so there are things for people to do within your community. And finally, members or admins, moderators actively contribute and interact. That's really important too, because at Discourse, we interact with our community members. So that is going to be 40 points. And now let's see some scores, hopefully. Hopefully at least one of you has a score to share.
So I know I can share the score of I'm not going to name it, of the community I managed a while ago. And I score a meager 60 points. So, do as I say, not as I do kind of situation.
All right, so 60 is moderate buy-in. It's on that edge of needs
Just on the
improvement.
edge. Yeah.
But these are kind of, remember the old magazine quizzes? Am I dating myself? But there's like a
No
quiz
comments.
in
No comments.
magazine. But yeah, so 80 to 100, you've got strong buy-in, you're good. That does not mean you're safe. Quarterly, semi-annual, frequent revisits, you have to keep your score. It's like maintaining a weight or maintaining your home, anything. You just don't set it and forget it. There's consistent things required to maintain that number. If you're below 40, maybe stay for office hours. No, I'm kidding. But just think about the things throughout this presentation. Again, next week, I will be posting this as a recap and meta. Revisit what you can do. It doesn't mean, oh gosh, the community is shutting down. It means, okay, this is an awareness for me. What can I do? All right, so we have about 10 minutes for some Q&A, and then we'll jump into office hours where people can ask us questions. So I probably stop sharing my screen for this so I can fully engage, but yeah, go ahead with your question.
So I will ask the first question. Of all the customers that you interact with, right? What do you think is on average going to be their score?
I honestly would think they're in the 60s.
Yeah, same for me. Yeah. So there's work to be done. Maybe even high 50s. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. And we're here to help you raise that score in any way that we can, but it's so unique to every single community, and it's so unique to you, starting with those leaders, decision makers, and working your way through the journey of understanding what's going to keep your community valuable. We have a quiet crowd today.
We do, yeah.
Yeah. Any concerns that anyone has about their community or anything that their community is doing well? Well, I'm just going to assume everyone here has 80 to 100.
So Mike Hatfield has a question. It's more of a command. Talk more about connected onboarding experience, please. So you want to take this one to kick it off?
I'll kick it off. So connected onboarding experience is, to me, it's like it's almost like a line that guides people to where you want them to be or what you want them to do. If the goal is for people to ask a question, very simply, when they onboard, you can say, hey, here are where the questions go. Ask a question. It's really just like guiding them to the point that you want them to go. And if there is a business case or something like that where members need to be involved in something, make it so easy and apparent for them to do so. I see you're unmuted, boss. Take it away.
Yeah. I also want to highlight that a community has multiple types of members, right? And they will have this different onboarding experience. So in a support community, the vast majority of people will ask one question and then just leave, right? So you need to guide them to that question button, or maybe ideally first to the search button and then to the question button. Whereas there will be this percentage of people that can also help you answer questions, right? And finding them in between that huge amount of people just asking a single question is hard. But once you find them, once you identify or potentially identify them, you know, go all the way and make sure that you connect them to someone. You know, if you have a buddy program, connect them to a friend. If you can connect them to someone in the same industry or in the same country, make that human connection, that would be fantastic. That would be almost the ultimate connected onboarding experience, right?
Yeah.
Um, so on to the next question. Do you have any favorite stories to tell about a team that has started with little buy-in from leadership and successfully gained more buy-in? Um, I do have a story that I like, but I need to see if I can anonymize this enough. One of my customers worked for a few years at a company, and they all of a sudden launched a very successful product, and their community membership tenfolded in a year, right? After a few years, it just tenfolded in a single year, and all of a sudden, everyone wanted to be involved, right? But because he already laid the groundwork in those years before, right? Everyone already knew what the community was, so they were when they finally became successful with their product and thus the community, because they're very intricately tied, immediately they already had that loop set up from product management to the community and back from all the other departments. Marketing was aware, they saw the SEO value. So then when it started to shine, they had all the budget in the world, right? They could do whatever they wanted. So you lay this foundation and then you're ready for success. Danielle, any from you?
Yeah, I'm thinking about how I can anonymize it a bit. All right, I'll give an example of a previous place I may or may not have worked at. I don't have LinkedIn, so no one can stalk me. No, I'm kidding. But basically, I was the fourth person hired somewhere besides the two co-founders, right? And it was just me for CS and support and a little bit of sales. So basically, I was like, we need a community because I'm spending all of my time doing this, and like we can have people answer stuff, and we can have also what you mentioned, SEO, meaning like people can find answers if they just Google it. And at first they were like, hey, we're just a chill. We just want to be this small little software company. It's cool. We don't need all this. But I'm just like, okay, we do. Let's implement it. And then over time, after me creating 100 posts and docs and things like that, they started to see like the search volume, because you can run analytics on it, like how many people were self-solving, things like that. The team grew, and eventually that company got acquired for several $100 million. I was not a part of that, but basically that community that I started still exists there, and my face still exists on some of those topics and things like that. So it's just like sometimes it's just trying it, even with just like the smallest amount of buy-in, like let me just show you, and then going from there.
I think, and it is not related to Discourse at all, but I think the story of Salesforce's Trailhead. There's this fantastic talk by Erica Cool, who reads from her own self-created children's book and talks about herself in like there once was a community manager in a land far, far away. But she tells the story of her basically blurting out some idea to Mark Benioff and him going like, okay, here you go with your chance, right? And she ran with it and created this amazing community that has like a couple dozen community managers, 100,000 or more active members every month. And it all starts with having a plan, speaking the language of the CEO. You randomly see him during an all hands. You know, you raise your hand and you have like 1 or 2 minutes to make your case. Well, if you're then prepared with an elevator pitch that speaks the language of that CEO, that shows the potential that a community has, because it has tremendous potential. Because yes, they have a staff of like 20, but they educate 100,000 people a year, right? That is an incredible amount of value that 20 people can create, right? If you speak the language of the CEO and you manage to convey the potential that a community has, you can do so much. Yeah.
We have a
Uh,
statement that the assigned feature is nice for connecting to others in the company. And that's really good. For those of you who don't know, like within a topic, you can use the assign plugin to assign the topic. I'll give you the perfect example. One of my customers writes in with a very technical question that I can't answer. I go ahead and assign that to either a dev or a technical advocate. I just hit assign. Obviously, I reply. So their statement doesn't just wait for someone like I'm passing it like a hot potato, but I can then assign it to this whole beautiful team that we have that is very technical in Discourse, or they know about the customizations or things like that, or vice versa. If there's an opportunity for us to help a community as far as connecting with a community manager or helping them, set some KPIs, whatever, the team will assign it to CS and one of us can jump in and do it, or you can assign to a specific person. So that's really good feature within Discourse.
Yeah. Okay, we have a question. Our staff asked for a community space. It was created with leadership buy-in, but there is little to no staff engagement in the community. How do we fix that? Now, that is a very complicated question to answer, right? But I was wondering if you could give it your first shot, your best shot, your first idea. What pops up?
One, if you're comfortable, which hopefully you are, and you're in a great supportive environment, I would actually call out leadership and be like, hey, not in a way that puts your community in a bad light, but say, hey, you were interested in this at first. We talked about this. It would be great if you could, or depending on how they are, do you mind doing this? Because I think the community would be benefited from you doing XYZ. Maybe it's a leadership corner where they share a couple of things. Depending on your leadership, you might maybe pre-write a few things, nudging them in the right direction and say, hey, is this something that you would like to share? Make something there. Maybe when we talk about exclusivity, make something there that's essential for staff. Not saying you put pay information or something that needs to be accessed in another system, but maybe this is a I saw your face, Block. We're not encouraging you. We're not encouraging you to do that, but something that is unique to the staff experience that can happen within your community to get more people logging in. And then from there, maybe that spawns into engagement and other factors. But I'm always of the stance to kind of be direct and try to revisit why that's not happening. But
yeah, fully agree. What I do find with internal communities is that often you are competing with an existing tool in place, right? So either there's an intranet or people are using Teams or Slack or something like that. And then you need a very strong reason for people to do a second platform. What I would strongly advise you is to go back to the beginning with the leadership buy-in. Someone convinced leadership that this was a good idea. Revisit that reason and see how you can reevaluate that. And it's hard to go into specific now because one, you're anonymous, and two, your question is anonymous, and it's a bit broad, but like send either me or Danielle a message, and I'm sure we're more than happy to dive into the specifics. Speaking of generic questions that are actually kind of interesting, Danielle, do you have any ideas on how you can become a better community manager?
I would say
Listen to more of our webinars. That's a good first step,
come to
right?
every Discourse.
Right? Yeah.
I would say kind of rethink your position, like take 3 steps back of everything that you've been doing, everything you've been trying to do, and just kind of look down at it and see, are there any areas where you want to improve? Are there areas where you've kind of been avoiding because you don't feel comfortable? Are there areas that you really like? And then go back and say, how does this tie to, I hate to say this, but business case or buy-in or things like that. And it's always just good to reevaluate everything. We do have a community manager mindset webinar that Boss and I, as well as Jenny on our team, did, which is on Meta, and I will link it in this recap post. I think that's really good. I think being in your community as much as possible and reacting and speaking makes for a good community manager. And maybe depending on your community, having more KPIs, having more check-ins, things like that, Boss.
Yeah, and realize that community managers tend to be jack of all trades, right? You need to know a little bit of marketing, you need to know a little bit of SEO, you need to know a little bit of project management, you need to be kind of have an affinity with IT normally. You need to know how to tie together systems, but you also need to know internal business, and you need to know the sales cycle of your company, and you need to know why the business goal of the company is the business goal of the company. So learning a lot of these things and writing down a plan for like the next half year of like, okay, these are like my 6 blind spots, and then focusing on that but one by one will probably help. So 1 month you focus on how does inbound marketing work, how does SEO work. The next month you go into okay, this business plan of ours support. Our business plan is call deflection. How does our support department work? What are their KPIs? What are their business goals, right? Are they happy if I take away questions from them, or are they not? Why aren't we doing our documentation? Who writes our documentation? And really try to understand that whole company that you're trying to help. And that will take a while, right? Drink a lot of cups of coffee with a lot of different people in your organization. I always share the story that when I joined the previous company, I made it a mission to do 100 cups of coffee in the first 2 months. I didn't succeed, but at least I had like a target. I think I flamed out at like 45. But that did mean that I talked to about 10% of the company, right? That means you understand that company in 1 or 2 months better than people that don't do that. It takes a lot of time, but it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would just say one more thing is like, probably gonna be TMI, but think about it like a relationship. Like I'm married, happily married, but every like, this is just my brain, but every few weeks I ask my husband, like, are you okay? Everything good? How are you feeling about our relationship? And he's always like, I love you, you're fine. But more than that. But what I'm saying is like maybe make it again or an analogy to something that you have to constantly revisit, or like a garden that you have to always till, because sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And even if you think you know everything, like we're existing, we're happy, we're watching, Netflix every night and, having good food, but it's like you want to make sure that there's no blind spots. You want to make sure that even if things are going great, how can it be better? Is there like a symbolic date night that you can have once a month where you're checking in with someone, or things like that, that's a little bit different than what you do all the time as a status quo. With community, obviously within corporate things are different, but you can kind of go anywhere. And what Boss said earlier, you never know what that thing is going to be that is the thing that works, like the printer conversation, or like what model printer or whatever that was. You just have to try a lot of new things, even if they feel a little bit wacky at first, as long as it's within your code of ethics, operations, those type of things.
Yeah, nice. And then for now, the final question. Any recommendations if I feel like I'm just repeatedly hitting a wall with buy-in? I personally still really believe in our community, but it just doesn't work, right?
All right, I'll kick it off. Some other ideas. Maybe you can, I'm not saying you go and buy a polling software, or you can use a poll within Discourse, but if you want this to be more behind the scenes, maybe picking 10 people who you thought would be really active in the community, but they weren't. And maybe you want coffee or tea, and have just like 15 minutes with them to chat about the community. Or you can send just like 3, 4 questions to these people and say, hey, how are you feeling about the community? Whatever those strategic questions are, so that you can get a lot of feedback and start to address it. If there's anything that is cloudy or misunderstood, do something to make it clear. And if that person is not clear, multiple people might not be clear. So maybe it is creating a little video. If you've been doing a bunch of static posts, maybe create a little video, Loom, Jump Share, anything like that. Put it into a topic with a transcription, because we know we have those skimmers, things like that, or AI captioning. There's a whole lot of things you can do, but just try to understand from different perspectives, and that's going to require a little bit of human engagement. If there's a wall, sometimes if you are a very bold or direct person, you can be like, I feel like there's a wall here, why is there a wall? And just see what comes out.
Yeah, ask the people that you need buy-in from, and just be very, very explicit. Now, I'm from the Netherlands. I'm Dutch. We're very direct, but it is a very useful way of just stepping out of your comfort zone and asking the question that you don't really want the answer to, but you kind of do need the answer. So yeah, if you don't get buy-in from the CFO, ask him why. He will most likely be able to tell you. If you don't get buy-in from the CEO, ask her why. She will tell you, right? If you say, give me very blunt feedback, they will give it to you, right? And they will tell you exactly why they believe your little plan is a bit silly, right? And then you can counter with tying it to the business case, all the things that we talked about, right? Yeah, make sure that you try this again, because it's vital for your community. So if you believe in the community, getting this buy-in, you need to do it somehow. Ask your manager for help, ask a peer for help, ask a mentor for help, and then make sure you understand why there is no buy-in. And in general, there will be no buy-in because they don't understand the value to them personally. And you need to make that value happen somehow and make it evident.
Yeah,
So
and
I hope that helps. And again, also for this, if you need specific help, reach out to me or Danielle. We can help.
yeah, and for general purposes, also sometimes a question you might have about your community might be in Meta, um, meta.discourse.org, and look there, but reach out to us. That's what Boss and I do. And then also, like, be a spy in other communities, even if yours is, let's say, corporate. Look at other communities and just see what they're doing, because sometimes things can mirror in your community, even if they aren't the exact same. I've joined like a lot of support communities. I've joined CS communities, just to see what's going on, because if you've been looking at it for so long, sometimes maybe just kind of some external inspiration can help in some way. Um, but yeah, so those are all the questions we have. We've kind of looped into office hours type questions in addition to buy-ins. Are there any general discourse questions or community questions? I'm a certified coach, so if you have personal questions, no, I'm kidding. But if there are any questions that you all have, let us know. Otherwise, thank you for joining for the official webinar, and we're going to hang out. Maybe it's 5 minutes, maybe it's 30, up to 30, depending on how many questions you have. So feel free to share anything else. Oh, thank you for coming. All right, we've lost, about half the people. Anyone?
I think we gave enough information. So yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe we did just that well. But I'll keep it open for another 5 minutes. Let's just see if any questions pop in.
I am gonna like close my camera to avoid being very awkward staring at the void. If
Okay,
that's
I'll stare
okay
at the
with
void for
everyone.
you. So in case someone did jump in late because they just wanted office hours, they don't just see a blank screen, but you feel free to
Okay,
go.
that's a fair point. I will stay and stare at the void. Great.
Okay, well, this is our team dynamic, everyone, for you just watching us.
That I present a dumb idea and that you correct me and then we do the right thing. Or
I mean, normally, normally it goes that way. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It doesn't. Oh, we're down a little bit more. All right, so this isn't awkward. Let's see what we have. Oh, what should I be asking about now? So this is basically anything you want. If you have a question about your community, if you have a question about how to do something in Discourse, oh, we discussed DiscoBot. Where is the documentation on that? Our goal is just to connect more with you all and see if there's anything that you need or aren't clear on. But there is no pressure. Like, maybe your question was answered within the presentation, but it can literally be about anything. If you have a customization or something and you want us to relay a question to an engineer, we can do that too. All right, to make this less awkward, I'm gonna say 60 seconds, and if there's no questions, we will pop off. But if there are, we'll answer them. So 60 seconds starting now. So about 4 after the hour. Oh, question. You mentioned Meta several times. Are you talking about the company? I'm going to link it. But this is our open community for Discourse. Chat to everyone. There's the link. There is a wealth of information there dating back years. All of our release notes go there. The replays of these webinars go there. You can interact with other people. It's open to anyone. All right, I have a couple more questions.
So I want to take is there anything that has been added to Discourse recently that you two are particularly excited about? So for me, and it's really strange to be excited about this, but our use of AI to fight other AI bots has been really, really interesting to see. So we saw a massive uptick in spam across our infra like a year ago, and we started using the language models to learn what spam looks like, and it's been so effective at just getting rid of a ton of spam and making life on easier for all the moderators. And I really like the way that we're doing AI at Discourse, where we're not flooding the internet with more generated stuff, but it's really about augmenting the community experience, right? By summarizing stuff and by fighting spam and by we're now looking into maybe translating entire websites into so we can have this multilingual community. I think that's a really exciting use of AI. How about you, Danielle?
I was going
Anything
to
you're
say AI as well. If you can see the
right?
books behind me, How to ADHD, guess what I have? ADHD. So with the AI stuff that we are doing, again, summaries are great. Obviously, you want to go through and understand, but sometimes I, explain it to me like I'm 5. I enjoy when things explain things to me like I'm 5, so I can then understand overarching and then go back. Internally, there's a couple tools that we're testing to have kind of AI give some preliminary information before we respond, so it does a little bit of research for us. But again, I like the process that we take with AI because it's not, oh my gosh, AI is taking over, it's scary, it's going to be Terminator. It's, hey, we are leveraging this to help you in a way that your community is still very human. That, and we also have, some cool theme updates, new composer,
Yeah, the new composer is going to be great. I really
Yes.
like it. Cool. How to address community split-offs. Sometimes a reputable member leave and they take a part of the group with themselves. It's a very good question, and honestly, for me, it's a bit of a hard question because I've been very much involved for the past decade in like B2B support type communities, and we don't have that dynamic there, right? There is no one going to start a secondary support community for Discourse in the foreseeable future. So I find it kind of hard. What I would say in general is try and find out the reasons why they did this and see if you can, win them back. And if not, accept them and just build a better community than they can. How about you, Danielle?
Yeah, I would want to see like, okay, they left. Why? Even if you can't ask directly, I'd be like, and then what part split off? Can I see why this happened? Which I'm sure you've addressed, but I would almost be professionally vengeful and making sure that what we had left was better than anything that they could be seeking elsewhere. And then just understand that sometimes things happen or people take things with them even though they shouldn't, or they take some loyalty with them, or they take some reputation with them, or whatever that is, and try to recreate it in a better way, or say, hey, I'm going to rebuild from what we have now. Here's how I'm going to do that. Um, are there any people, and reputable is a generic term, right? Like, I mean, not a generic term, but it's relative to who is saying that. So are they reputable because they have community history or because they've answered a lot of questions? If that's the case, are there people who are almost at that level who you can reach out to and say, hey, I see you've been contributing a lot here. Can you, for generically saying, can you contribute more? Can you, how can we leverage those who are still here and kind of bring them up a notch? Or, yeah, it all goes back to that why, but sometimes someone just leaves and takes something with them, be it reputation, what have you, and the goal is really to rebuild.
I think that's all the questions.
All right, let's do another. We still have like a couple more non-discoursers here. So we'll do, let's say, a 30-second call for final question. All right, so it
I
looks like
think
that's it. Thank you to everyone for coming. We're always open to feedback if this was helpful or if there's things you'd like to see in the future. Have an amazing rest of your day or evening, depending on where you are.
thank you so much. All right.
Bye.
Bye.